Construction, Santa Clarita Valley's expert remodeler. And we have Jeff Brown from NV Landscape. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Randolph.
And we have Jeff Softly from Softly Electric.
Howdy.
And Dale Hayes from Hayes Plumbing.
Hello.
Three experts in their field. General contractor really just needs to know who the experts are, right? They don't have to be the expert. All right, just kidding. Thanks a lot for what you had to say there, Dale. That's some good tips there. We're going to shift over to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown has some, before we go into some of your topics, if you don't mind, we were talking a little bit about wasting water, and it's not as damaging on the outside, but I noticed sprinklers that seem to be running.
I would say that it's not as damaging, meaning we're not going to ruin your personal property, but it does cause problems. When you have a leaky valve in your landscape, if you're not paying attention to what's happening in your garden, you may have a wet spot there. Now, that's running water. It may just be a drip, but it's going 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you're wasting a lot of water. But more importantly, to me as a landscaper, is that you're hurting your garden. You really are hurting the garden because the plants that are growing there are now sitting in water. They're sitting in a pond, and typically it's very frequent that we're planting more drought-tolerant type plants. Mm-hmm. You could be hurting them or killing them with this extra water that's here. Now, valves in your average Valencia home, you have a valve and an actuator. And the actuator is what converts an electrical pulse into a mechanical action that turns it on, turns it off.
Right.
And I find that these typically last from 5 to 7 years before they start to fail. They don't last forever.
Are the plastic better or worse than the brass?
You know what? I stick with the brass.
Really?
I really do. And oftentimes we'll go in, we'll see where repairs are there. And the reason I've switched to brass, because I know that the reps from the companies come and visit me and they talk about their plastic valves. They're less expensive. They operate on less energy. There's less friction, so they're supposed to last longer. But I've also had them where they split. They literally have splits down the seams on these. And so I've stuck with some of the valves that are brass that we've been using for years that last and are very durable. Now, it used to be I stuck with brass exclusively because it was so easy to rebuild these. But the labor, the time, the hard water, we simply don't rebuild these now. We actually replace them.
Okay.
And, one of the advantages also of replacing it is that if they fail again, we guarantee those for a year. Parts, labor, we take care of those.
Yeah, you can't guarantee a repair.
We can't guarantee a repair, but we can guarantee a replacement. But enough of the plumbing, enough of this. Yeah, we're concerned about the wasting water, but we have much more fun things to talk about today.
All right, let's get into some of the meat here. Something to eat, fruits and vegetables. Do they taste better when you grow them yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay.
When we're out here and we live in a climate that we have the opportunity to grow year-round fruits and vegetables here, and not to forget nuts also, it does taste better. Let me just give you an example. When you go into the garden and you go into your garden and you pick a ripe tomato right off the vine,
It's
and you
the
bring
best.
Bring it in, you slice it up and you put it on your salad. What tastes better than that?
Nothing.
Now, I don't care whether you go to any market in town or a farmer's market, things like that. None were that fresh. But the other thing to remember about this is that it's also the variety of the tomato. The tomatoes that they're used in a lot of fruits and vegetables that we find in the grocery store, you go to Ralph's or Vaughn's or anywhere else, those varieties that you have are not only selected for how they look, but how they transport.
So their shelf life.
Their shelf life is longer. Now, people have told me over and over when we put in vegetable gardens, they pick a tomato and they say, "Oh, this is just like what I had when I was a kid. Why can't we find them anymore?" It's because, one, you are not picking them fresh. That tomato that you're getting in the garden was probably, that you were getting from the grocery store, was probably picked green. They gas them to turn them red. Mm-hmm. And some days or even weeks later, it ends up on the shelf at your grocery store. Now, it's economical, it's convenient because they're always there, and really you can get vegetables out of our season anytime here because they transport it. So for instance, in the summertime, you're either buying in the grocery store greenhouse-grown tomatoes, or they're being imported from near the equator. Right. And so they're being either flown up here or put on a ship and brought up here. They're simply not as fresh as what you're growing yourself. But also the varieties, like I said, about the one of the things that is selected in grocery stores as how well they transport. Well, if you have strawberries, for example, you buy strawberries in the grocery store, they've been picked a week ago. They're old already. The variety that you can grow in your garden is one that could never last a week on the shelf.
But it's sure fresh when you eat
They
it.
taste better.
Right.
They're juicy, they're tender, and they taste wonderful. So the answer is you can do so much better. And don't just limit it to your strawberries or your tomatoes. Think about your peppers also. Think about the other kinds of vegetables that you could do. It's a whole wide variety.
So can you set us up? I mean, if a homeowner wanted to call Envy Landscape, would you actually set them up with the garden and show them and
We
get
can.
them all? You actually build those and get the water set up for them and the time, everything. All they have to do is put the seed in and pick it when it's
You know
done.
what I tell everyone? As I said, we need three things and we can help you. We need sun, we need earth, and we need water. And from then we can find a place. And it sounds kind of funny to
So
say.
what do they have to do? Tell me what they have to do, because they may not want to do it if they have to do a lot of work.
Well, it is a lot of work to build this. Is that if you're
Well,
getting
no,
old,
you're going to pay you to build it.
Okay. Well, we need to find, and I can come out and find a place which is the best place in your garden, in your landscape, to put this vegetable garden. For instance, I need to look at the sun. Typically, your sun exposure. In a lot of smaller gardens that we have a lot of homes close together and maybe some common area trees that are shading it. I need to find sun. For most of our vegetables, we need at least 6 hours or more of direct sunlight a day for that vegetable or that fruit to thrive. Now, it doesn't mean if you have less than that the plant will die, but it will not grow as vigorously as if we had sun. And finding sunlight can be challenging these days. And oftentimes we look first in the backyard to see what we have available in backyards. If we don't find sunlight, enough sunlight there, we also look in your front yard. And with a properly selected, properly designed vegetable garden, it could fit right in keeping with the look of your garden as it fits in the front, and you can get vegetables and fruit off
It
of
could
it.
be a little harder in certain associations to get a garden in the front.
You have to find things, and we're sensitive to that.
Right.
We are sensitive to it. But first, we want to look at the backyard and find a sunny place. The next thing that we want to have in there is we need earth. We need good soil. Now, for many of us who've worked and I've worked all over the valley, top to bottom here, there's not a lot of great soil in our valley. So what we need to do is we need to either amend your soil here or bring in some new soil. Now, if we're bringing in new soil, we're going to do things like let's say if we're doing a raised planter bed. And by the way, raised planter beds are very popular now because as we all get older, we don't like to have to bend down, get on our knees, work on the ground. I can build a planter bed 2 feet high where we just don't have to stress ourselves, and it's so much easier to reach everything. But what I can also do is give you the absolute perfect soil mix that's there. And what I do, I'll give you a secret that's here, is we do bring in topsoil, but that's not where we stop. Half of it's topsoil. The other half is rich compost. And compost is the key to having a wonderful vegetable garden and just having things that work well. Also, by adding the compost and the topsoil here, it makes the soil workable. It isn't dirt, it's earth. And when it's earth, it's alive. It's alive with the biologic activity that's in here that not only makes it easy to work in the soil, but also
For the roots to grow.
it lets the roots go and spread, but it lets those plants get all the nutrients that they need to thrive. We also need to have water, and watering is important on there. If you have busy schedules and you can't devote a certain amount of time every day to water these gardens, we want to set up a separate little sprinkler system for that area. Typically, I don't use spray heads on here. We'll usually use drip so that there's no waste. We're not putting water on any of the foliage that we don't need. And I know we're running out of time. I'm going to let you take it over, Randall.
All right. Well, thanks for that. I'm getting hungry. Always close to lunch. Nothing like a fresh tomato. You have any in your garden?
No more tomatoes. I just pulled them out.
Oh, darn. Okay. This is Randall Winter with Home 411 on Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS. And a break.